All right, my friend, it's a great pleasure here. Daniel Moedas, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Brad. Thanks for having me. My pleasure to be here. I'm doing great. It's
Yeah.
already 6 p.m. in Portugal, so almost hitting the end of the day, but a nice way to wrap up my day over here, my friend, talking to you.
Yeah, listen, a lot of the times I talk to some of the top coaches in the world, some of the top athletes, swimmers in the world, but you're one of the top physios in the world. You're the head of the physiotherapy for the Portuguese Swimming Federation. You travel the world with the Portuguese team, and getting athletes to perform at the highest level. So I thought I'd chat with you today. We don't often get to do this. Tell us about the role of a physiotherapist on a national team.
First of all, thank you so much for your introduction. I mean,
Mhm.
it's an honor to be classified as one of the top physios in the world. I don't see myself that way, but I appreciate it. Working in a national team, it's great to me. It's like a dream come true. I built my path to get to that point. But when people ask me what's different to me, like for me, it's a regular average role as a average regular physio on a 9 to 5 job. The difference is we have the most different thing for me is we have always to fight nature timing against, especially when an athlete is injured. We have to define science and sometimes time to get the athletes ready to perform and to come back. And to me, what motivates me the most and what drives me the most in this area, in this profession, is to fight pressure and always having the pressure that, okay, he needs to come back, he needs to come back, and he needs to come back even better than it was
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. We seem to use physiotherapists fairly extensively and heavily in swimming in particular. What's the difference between physiotherapy and some of the other therapies? You know, you have your massage therapy, you have your chiropractic, you have, I'm sure you can tell me more, but
Yeah.
why do we focus primarily on physiotherapy in swimming?
I mean, we have in Portugal, we don't have like that big of a holistic team in our sports medicine category. How we work mainly with the physios and with a head doctor. In our case, we see physiotherapy as the most holistic profession, the one who looks at biomechanics and looks at function, and can not only minimize the risk of injury, but actually work on the presence of injury in an acute stage until the chronic stages. And I say we are the most how do you say, the most competent profession
Mhm.
to work with the injury management, pain management, and also to work with recovery strategies to get the athletes at their best level every time, every day.
Yeah.
And
Hang on a sec. My dog's barking. I'll
no,
go on
no
mute for one
worries.
second. Dang. Okay, so based on that, what is the primary role of a physiotherapist once you're on the national team and let's say, you're headed to an Olympics, especially this year? You know, you've got 3 weeks, let's say, to work with the total team with these athletes while you're on camp. What's the primary role of the physiotherapist right there in that moment?
So I say we have different stages of operation. I would say, like if we look at our training camp, our training center. Sorry, I work in the national team training center. So the athletes who choose to be here with us in the national team training center, I, my role is long term. I work from them since the day they join here. I've been
Mhm.
working with Diogo, Ribeiro, and Miguel Nascimento, who are two of the Portuguese qualified for this Olympics. And my role here works since day one, like 3 years ago, for some of them even more in the national team. And it works from the basis like assessing them. And when we talk about assessing them, we're talking about static posture, how they move in space, their shoulder, ankle, thoracic spine, mobility, range of motion, stability, their core stability. So we collect all of this data to get like this a whole picture of the swimmer, and then combined with the strength coach, with the biomechanics, with the head coach, we create this whole picture of the swimmer and this holistic picture of the swimmer as well, to get a longer view, a long run view of the swimmer and how we perform on each phase of the season. and that is with the main goal to minimize the risk of injury, to get him every time at his best level performance wise within the different stages of the season.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about that stuff because when I do clinics around the country, around the world, um, the one thing I tell kids is, look, there's two main things that are going to cause resistance in the pool. Things that are going to hold you back from swimming as fast as you can. One is your body position, just the way that you're sitting in the water. The other is the way that you hold on to water. So how do you catch the water? How do you feel the water? How do you pull the water? And so it sounds like these are things that you are working on, getting them into a better body position and holding on to the water better through physiotherapy.
Yeah, that's very well pointed out, because that's our actually one of our main focus when we look at the different anatomy and the different specifics of the body anatomy, is to actually minimize the drag resistance, to guarantee that they get in that fundamental position, that hydrodynamic position, which is to fight drag. So they can move faster, to be powerful in the water, and that is a lot where we identify those lack of mobilities. Sometimes we have a lot of swimmers who come to us. They have imbalances in their shoulders or in their ankle, and they are creating drag within their own body. Sometimes athletes don't realize why they don't move as fast as they wanted. And within the physio aspect, we can identify and then combine with images with underwater, and identify, okay, this is the reason. Maybe you're not moving as faster, or if that is not the reason, at least we're identifying specific points where we can improve.
Right, right. Now, obviously, once an athlete gets an injury and maybe even has to go to the point of surgery, you guys are the first point of contact, I'd imagine, too, after the surgery in the rehabilitation process.
Yeah, we are. So even when we identify that an athlete, for example, has to undergo surgery, normally my name is called up to basically study the whole case, and I will be the head professional to go to the athletes with the orthopedics appointment, to understand the surgery, sometimes even to be invited to watch the surgery, to discuss the type of surgery to be performed if it is not a specific orthopedic sports focused, to understand what type of a surgical approach can be done. And then from day zero post-op, I'm normally the main man, let's call it that,
Mm.
to work with the athlete. Normally in the most acute phase, there's not much that we can be done if you look at motion wise, but there's definitely a lot of the physio way we can do to minimize the pain, the swelling, and then most specific, in my opinion, to educate the athletes and especially manage expectations. Sometimes athletes they want to go bigger and better. They want to move faster, but sometimes we have to manage the athletes' expectations so they don't really get disappointed within the different stages of rehabilitation.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. That's really interesting. A lot of people always say to me, like when I get injured, what do I do? And so I do want to dig into that in a second. Before I get there, the most common injury in swimming is a shoulder injury. Now, it's a very broad statement from what I understand, because the shoulder is very complex and it's built up of different sections and different parts. So tell me about the shoulder itself, and what are the most common injuries you see within the shoulder?
That's actually a funny question, Brad, because even in swimming, in sports medicine, in the swimming category, there's been a new term developed, which is called the swimming shoulder, because of the specifics you told about the different anatomy and the different orthokinematics related to the shoulder. Is such a multi-axial joint within
Mm.
which means there are so different ligaments and myofascial structures and different muscles acting on the shoulder, which makes it the most mobile joint of the body. But that takes away sometimes a lot of the stability correlated to that greater mobility. And within the range of injuries, we have so many different terms that can be related to that swimming shoulder, what we call in science, such as tendinopathy of the long portion of the biceps. We have a lot of bursa cases, which is related to the swelling. But above all of these different terms and different pathogenics have been all put in the same category within called the swimming shoulder, because
Mm.
above all, the signs and the symptoms are within, even the origin of the injury may be different, but the signs and the symptoms, they tend to be almost the same. There's different, the only different aspects between the injuries that can differentiate the diagnosis. And that is why it's been scientifically created the swimming shoulder, which is normally correlated to more of the tendinopathy of the long head of the biceps.
Why is that? Tell me the tendinopathy. It's a big word, right? So most people just say
Yeah,
like
it's a big word.
tendonitis, right? Is that simple term, tendonitis?
So that would be a clinically would be a different there would be a huge discussion, because there's also been a term developed, because yes, the word itself, it's been created because uh, it's been created to the belief of the correlation where it's only an inflammation on a degeneration also in the tendon, which not tendinopathy results in the combination of, it is actually a mutual process, so they're both present. So the acceptance word, it is that definitely long term tendinopathy, but that is what is clinically used. But like you're saying, all of these terms and all of these injuries, they're all correlated to the main risk factor, which is overload of the joint. So basically, it's poor management of practice. So athletes
Mm.
are doing is doing more and more and more. Normally, it's seen like the recipe. The more you do, the better, right? And that's what we're trying to fight. Sometimes that is not the recipe. The more is not always the better, and that
Right.
takes a toll on the athlete's joints.
It's interesting, you say more and more and more. Look, honestly, I swam for, over 20 years and I never had a shoulder injury. And then I had friends at the age of 12 who had shoulder problems, so, and they hadn't been swimming that long, you know what I mean? Not 20 years. So it's interesting that different people are susceptible as well. I mean, I guess there's genetics involved, but there's also technique involved, maybe. So tell me, what are the commonalities between maybe those that get injured and those that don't?
Yeah, that's definitely so. There's a correlation to level of performance. So there's a definitely, like you said, the more experience, the more elite level you get, that's normally a risk factor identified to injuries, of course. And there's definitely like genetics play a role in that. There's arthrokinematics play a role in that. How you manage equipment inside the session takes a tool on that. The load of the session itself takes a load on that. And more risk factors related to your strength levels, your endurance levels, your core stability, how the synergy of the rest of your body. So because your body works as one perfect, I would say, robot, right? So let's say if you have some sort of dysfunction in your neck, or if your breathing pattern will have a direct role on your shoulder, because we work as a one. So that we normally shouldn't look at just the shoulder, just the knee, or just the neck. We have to look at the synergy of the whole body.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that. You've said that a couple of times in terms of the core. How does the core relate specifically to shoulder function?
So the core works correlated to the shoulder function, and actually not just the shoulder, but all of the extremities function, because that's the definition of actually the core. A lot of athletes sometimes they have a confusion within the term, like they merely confuse like the normal six pack with the
Mm.
core stability. You can have the six pack related to the more outer part of your abdominis. But when we look at the core stability, we look at the more internal part of that. So we're looking at multifidus, our transverse abdominis. So those are the muscles that are correlated to the stability of the core, and this core stability is what defines how you can position your body and how you're stable moving your extremities. So the more you are able to perform and have function within your extremities with a graded core, that's the core stability. That's merely different than having a six pack. So it's
Right.
having effectiveness on how you move your upper and your lower body extremities.
How then do you strengthen core stability as a physiotherapist? You know, obviously what you're talking
Yeah.
about is that outer layer that we see, that six pack. How would you then attack the internal connections?
So, as a physio, and let me say also, just to clarify, it is important to have strength, to have resistance, also in your core. So, the normal muscle, the muscle exercise to stabilize, or what they call stabilize the core, as Russian twist or the crunches or the leg raises. They are good exercises for to create endurance, resistance, and strength in your core. When you want to test stability and in your core and actually to perform exercises, we're talking about sometimes having plank, when you have to move your kettlebell from one side to another, when you have to position your body and you have to avoid shifts of your spine, of your hip. We're talking about the unstable platforms. We're talking about lifting one of your extremities, shoulder taps, and actually one of the more engagements that you can do to have a great core stability is actually performing like exercise, the basic exercises, squats, for example. They are great exercises to stabilize your core,
Yeah.
to engage this whole center unit that we normally want to call it.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of work is being done in the Dryland. Primarily, when I
Yeah.
think of Dryland, I think of a strength coach. But it seems like you're pretty well connected to the Dryland just as much as you would be the swimming. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in our national team, for example, since our this last cycle, we have now a strength coach, which we work merely close, which is great. But yeah, physios they definitely have an intake on this dryland process. So we can have these normally warm up routines, what we call sometimes dryland routines as well. And they can be a mix performed by a strength coach, but also a physio. Also, a physio is very competent to perform dryland routines.
Mm.
If it's not focused on a general principle of warming up, but also focus sometimes on aspects that you identify in your assessment or in your evaluation for the swimmer to perform better in the task in hand, which is swimming. So if you identified some lack of hip stability, some lack of shoulder stability or mobility, or lack of shoulder rotation, then you can definitely integrate some exercises in your daily dryland routine to get the athlete ready to perform and to transfer those functions into the water session.
It's interesting, that you talk about this. It seems very clear and obvious in terms of development. We talk about development a lot with kids, and it seems to me that you're a massive part of development and the advancement of swimming. So why don't we see physiotherapy more involved in age group swimming? Let's say you're at the top end of the spectrum where you're working with the pros, the elite. Why don't
Yeah.
we have physiotherapists working with the young kids who seem to need this more than anybody, I would imagine?
You're definitely right, and I would love to give you a different answer, but the reality is just is cost based. There's no financial investment in the younger groups, which is actually that's my main critic to different nations and different countries, even my own. I don't abstain myself from giving that credit, but it's definitely a financial aspect to it. So. Especially for me, coming from a small country where swimming is not the main sport at all, we're giving more relevance and more light to the swimming in Portugal now due to the recent success we had with Diogo. But my main focus now is for especially the next cycle, because this one is already like we're so close to the Olympics. The focus is just Paris. But my main focus as the head phys is actually to create and try to gather more investment to get more physios to work with the younger age groups, not the juniors, because we have in my federation, in my team, I have a physio for the open water, a physio for the artistic swimming, and a physio that works directly with the juniors. But the age group
Mm.
before the juniors ones, it's like a gray area for a lot of nations, not just for us, but for a lot of of different nations, which is actually, in my opinion, is actually very poorly designed for the to the long-term development of the athletes, because this is such an important age group
Mm,
to be developed. Well, they should be learned how
mm,
they need to learn the not how their body moves, how they can move, what they can't and can't do, how they eat, how they sleep. So we're
yeah.
lacking a lot of it in not only on Europe but worldwide. We're lacking a lot of education in these young age groups. I'm happy to see some clinics come up with the ex-Olympians and stuff, but also these type of clinics, they sometimes they invite nutritionists, they invite psychologists, but we're still not seeing physios getting invited to perform in these different swim clinics and to talk with the athletes, to educate also the parents, because the parents are responsible for this age groups recovery strategy. So we need to get engage the parents together in this type of clinics to
Hmm.
educate them to
Yeah.
be better for the kids while they are the main responsible for them.
Well, listen, I'll tell you this: in this day and age, the world has got small. We can get online and watch. People talk about these things. People explain these things. I got
Yeah.
very frustrated at one point where people didn't understand sprinting. I went out on a limb and created my own
All right.
brand about Sprint Revolution. I started to put information out. I started to expose myself, put myself out there because I just felt like it was too important. We needed to share information. Do you feel the same way? Are you allowed to get on like an Instagram and explain some of these things that may help parents and youth? Just like, for instance, you know, uh, shoulder prevention. Before we get in the pool, what should we be doing? How do we do it? How do we
Yeah.
implement it? What are the basics of shoulder injury prevention? That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. So in my specific case, I have the best federation and the best nation working with me. I don't have any type of restrictions.
Mm,
Fairly uh, I'm fairly allowed to do
mm,
what I want with my social media, and I do post a lot about my work ethic and my work routine, what type of work I do here.
mm,
Um, if you ask me why I still haven't tried to put myself out there in the swimming clinics type format,
mm,
is merely like you said. I still haven't found, I guess, the guts to do it.
mm.
Maybe I would love to do it, but right now, and like I told you, I'm very fortunate. Like it's rare to have physios having a full time position um, in a federation. Even the big nations, like from what I know, some of my colleagues in the US or Australia, they're physios when they have training camps or when they go to a competition. I'm a everyday physio. This is my everyday job in the training camp, in the training center. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very focused. I'm very driven on this opportunity that I have to. We have this role here, which is very rare to have worldwide. It's very rare to have a physio um, working every day with their top athletes.
Yeah.
So I would love to create to jump on some swim clinics. I've actually been invited to some of them by some international swimmers. I still haven't found, to be honest, not to trying to put an excuse, but I still haven't tried to the guts to put myself to manage the schedule with the responsibility that I deeply feel to my work here.
Yeah. Look, I was on the Australian team many years, and the physiotherapist, held me together so that I could get to the blocks at my peak, right? Like, they were a huge piece of the puzzle that didn't get a lot of credit. We credit the coaches a lot. We credit the work that the athletes do, but there was people behind the scenes like the physiotherapist and the nutritionists who were certainly had a huge impact on my performance. I know that you have a huge impact on the Portuguese team. So, credit to you on that. And just on that, in terms of, one of your swimmers who's had phenomenal success recently at the World Championships, Diogo, in he won the 50 and the 100 butterfly at the World Championships,
Uh,
correct?
yeah, he both one of them. Uh, in the 50, it was more like, if you say on paper, like expected, because if you look, I mean, I'm not talking nonsense here. It's like it was on the start list for everyone to see. It was the
Hmm.
main man to beat. And he didn't, he's quite young, so and he was even younger when he spoke to you, I remember.
Yeah.
He's a bit more older now, but he still gets nervous. He still gets a lot of emotions. Still, it's everything is very fresh to him because it's been his first junior world, it's been his first European, it's been his first senior world, second senior world. So it's not been easy to process all of the emotions, and all of the things that's come about his success. But he's a nice kid. I had the pleasure to work with him from day one since he had his injury. So I feel like he's like you said, one of the main athletes who really values the role of the physio.
Mm.
He's not one to bother really, like some swimmers have their different routines in competition. Oh, I'm feeling like tight here, I'm feeling tight there. He's very body conscious, and I'm very fortunate to educate him since day one, since he was a junior. A little bit before he had the accident, and when he had the accident, he really had the, like I normally say, injury is an opportunity to change. It's an opportunity for us to look at our body in different ways that we never thought we could look. We are
Mm.
for him, a young boy, so function, loves to run outside swimming. He loves to be active. He loves to play soccer.
Mm.
For him to be taken out of everything by a motorbike accident, to be put in a hospital bed, to be put in a
Mm.
wheelchair, to come back to the basics of swimming. So for him, there was no more brutal and raw way to be introduced to the real role of a physiotherapist. And fortunate enough, within a bad situation, I was the one who had the responsibility to drive him through his whole rehabilitation process. So Diogo really values the role of physiotherapists, and like you said, we are definitely the one of the professions. We stay in the backstage, which I don't mind at all. I really like to suffer in the backstage. I get nervous in competitions. But I really like to say when Diogo says, thank you so much for everything you've done. Um, you're like a mentor, like a dad figure to me. I really get touched by that, and I normally say, it's your work. You've done it all. I remember I told them I'm 0.0001% of your success, and he replied to me, okay, but you're the 0.0001 that matters. So
Mm.
I really got touched by that quote, when he told me
Right.
that, and it really got me thinking. It is okay for me to be in the backstage, and he's the center of the attention, but I can't be more than appreciative for him to put my profession up here.
One thing I've noticed about you, and this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, and I think the thing that separates the best physiotherapist is they're also the best psychologists. These kids are on your table in the lead up to their events, right? You're working on them physically, right, with your hands.
Yeah.
But really, we all know that at that level of competition, it comes down to the mental side, right? Like a lot of people say it's 90% mental at that stage. So when they're on the table, they're not only looking for something physically, but they're looking for something mentally too. And I think you recognize that as well. You do a great job of managing the psychology at that point. So tell me what's the line that you walk there? How do you manage that?
So that's definitely a fine line to walk in, because I have to put this disclaimer out here. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a certified
Mhm.
psychologist.
Right.
We have a psychologist in our national team, but it was actually it came from her mouth, that you're my most valuable resource, Daniel, because you're the main psychologist with these athletes on their daily
Yeah.
life routines.
Right.
And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And she got me thinking. She actually did a psychology appointment with me without me even noticing. That's why she's so great as well. So my role also in the team is also to identify if they need a bit of more support within the psychology. But yeah, I do listen to their concerns, to their expectations, to their goals, and yeah, it is a definitely thin line. Sometimes I asked my team, as well as the psychologist included, how can I manage some of these expectations without him figuring it out that I'm actually talking to the psychologist, uh, because we don't want to break the trust that we're building right there, right?
Mm,
So, and with all of the athletes in the national team, yeah, they come to me after the race and they're like, oh well, I'm screwed, or I feel good, and
mm,
from there you build the conversation. And sometimes, like I told you, in the national team, more than a physio, I have to be the masseuse. I have to be the guy who helps them organize their diet. I'm the guy who have to organize their equipment if they're left down. Hell, I will be the guy to pick their trash if needed, to
mhm,
guarantee that they're focused on the competition. I don't care. I know what I'm here for. I'm
mm,
fully dedicated to this role. And yeah, that's how I manage expectation. They love to come to the physios, and I love also those moments where you are talking about their expectations, their fear, their future. Um, and I'm glad sometimes, even when they come to us, they come to the physio. Sometimes they're not even that bad physically, but
mm,
their mind is shutting them down.
mhm,
So my role as a physio uh, is okay. I'm performing them. I'm helping them in their recovery, even if it is with a massage, even if they don't need that massage that bad. But I'm working on their psychology aspect of managing pain, on the way
mm,
they feel pain, the way they
yeah,
feel their tiredness. So that's the main
yeah.
role right there.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I've noticed that a few times. You know, I was on the Australian team for 6 years, and so we had a variety of people on the table at certain times, and you'd always go in and get work. Just on that, that's a good question, actually. You're there every day and you're available every day. What do you recommend to the athletes in terms of treatment and physical therapy? Because I notice even the psychology of the thing again is like some athletes feel like, oh, I need to get more treatment. I need to be on the table all day, every
Mm,
day just to feel good. So it's like, how do you manage, making sure that they're getting the right amount?
yeah. So we have different groups that come to our training center. If it is one athlete that sometimes I have to manage the expectations of the type of work they used to do before coming here. I cannot be the type of physio that a new athlete comes, let's say a 25-year-old athlete who has been experienced like he's worked with a different physio and he used to do cupping, needling,
Mm,
massage every day. It is not my intention or my role even to jump on that case and say, okay, everything you're doing, none of that matters. Okay, it's not
mm,
my goal or my role to do that. I have to build the confidence first of all with the athlete to educate them on what I feel is right, and for him most importantly to understand effectively how his body will be better with definitely different type of recovery strategies. Within the other athletes who are working with me for a longer period of time, in the case of such as Diogo and Miguel now, we have our method, our weekly schedule designed. So we have 1 to 2 sessions in the physio table where we work on specifics that they're feeling, if whether it's some sort of tightness in the shoulder, or on the hip, or in the knee, some sort of knee problems, for example, and we work on those specifics they're feeling. But we definitely have the schedule from 1 to 2 sessions per week.
mm,
Besides that, we try to have the what we call always the fundamental of the basis of the period of the recovery pyramid, which I need to guarantee that we are tracking their sleep, their food intake, and their hydration levels. Okay. I always try to educate them on that. They need to have those three bigger pillars for me to guarantee that they are recovering well. Because I educate them on that precise aspect, that they can do all the ice tub recovery methods. They can do all the compression therapies they want. They can do all the massage they want. If you're not performing on the recovery basis, which is nutrition, sleep, and hydration, then for me, all the methods
mm,
are very secondary.
mm.
So I try
Yeah.
to definitely educate them and specify which type of recovery methods they can do, and also is not a recipe for everyone. So one Diogo has a routine, Miguel has a routine, another athlete in my team has a different routine. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone, because at the end of the day, they're all different.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. You're right too. You guys have a very big impact, but I I always tell people the number one recovery method is sleep, honestly, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
sleep is so vital and important to being a great athlete.
It is, and we're looking at their sleep performance, and there's such a great correlation to, and that is scientific based and proven that sleep has
Yeah.
a huge role on your performance levels, and
Yeah.
even, on the risk of injury. If you're training with a deprivation of sleep, then you're not going to be aware of the dangers that there is near you. Even if swimming is not a contact sport, you're not ready to take the impact of the session within your body if you're being sleep deprived. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, we're now having actually funny, you stating that we are gonna have this week here, a doctor to talk with our athletes about sleep quality
Mm.
and sleep management, and how they can track their sleep, and how can they have their hygiene of sleep even improved.
Well, I didn't plan this, but I wear a Whoop, and oh, there we go. You got the Whoop too. See,
Me
I
too,
have
man.
this on my Instagram. If you go to my Instagram and click on my link tree, I have a discount to Whoop, and I track my sleep. These things are amazing, hey, and they give you so much detail.
Mate, I'm loving this one. To be honest, everything on here is the way they measure strain. I can register my
Right.
workouts here. I can register my daily nutrition supplements.
Hmm.
Everything I can put in here. I can identify my goals for the week, for the month here.
Hmm.
And it's so easy to manage. Like you said, I'm loving this one, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, the sleep description and the analysis they do from the sleep performance,
Mm.
it's outstanding. One of the
Outstanding.
best I've seen so far.
Yeah. Tell me this. We talked about shoulders. What are some of
Yeah.
the most common other injuries in swimming?
So shoulder, I would say is number one, but then there's also correlated to your breathing patterns, a lot of neck pain
Hmm.
correlated, and also sometimes more in butterflyers, a lot of low back pain, mechanical low back pain, which is
Mm.
actually correlated as well to the biomechanics and to the overuse and to the extension and flexion of the joint.
Yeah.
And I would say in breaststrokers, the knee pain. I
Mm.
mean, it's unnatural, the biomechanics of the kick. So that takes a tool on the biomechanics and the arthrokinematics of the knee joint. And sometimes we see a lot of internal compartment pain within the overuse of the joint. But then again, it's very correlated to the poor biomechanics of the kick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I see those
Yeah.
same things that you're talking about. So yeah, very common. Um, okay. Well, listen, this has been super cool, very fascinating, interesting. People can find you where on? Tell us your Instagram.
I mean, my Instagram is at Daniel Moedas. It's quite simple. My first and last name put together.
Mhm.
That's my main platform right there.
Yeah.
And they can find me. Sometimes a lot of people message me to trade information, and that's where I keep sometimes uploading videos of working with the national and the international swimmers I've worked in the past, so they can see some content there. They can jump on some questions there. I love to switch ideas and to discuss.
Good stuff, man. Well, listen, you got a big campaign coming up. Paris is only a few months away now, man. How are you feeling about the kids that you've got going to represent?
Right now we've qualified five heroes for Portugal, like we called four in swimming and one girl in the open water,
Uh-huh.
Angelica. So we have Miguel, Diogo, João, and Camila in the swimming, and Angelica, which was a bronze medalist in Doha in the 10K. So we're looking good, man. I think it's the first time that I'm. So it's not the most athletes we've had going into Olympics so far, but we still have time. They have until June, Europeans, to qualify. Um, but the goal is clear.
Yeah.
We're looking to have more finals, more semifinals. But most of all, I think the long-term goal is for Portugal to be one of those countries when we arrive. We're not the shy country that people don't notice. Every time I tell my athletes from 3 years ago, when we started having a bit more success, um, I don't want ever to see you walking on a hallway and okay, you're a fan of most of the guys that are there. I'm also a big fan of them. I've worked with them, but I'm still a fan of them. But you, not in an arrogant way, but I want you to walk facing forward, your head held up high. And we're coming here to create some damage.
See, I told
That's
you
what I
you're a
tell them.
psychologist. I told you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm tired of being like seen as
Yeah,
the
yeah,
small country who's gonna
yeah.
participate just to make fun.
No,
No, we're going in there to take some of their spots that they're not
no.
expecting to be taken out. We're ready.
No, no, listen, I noticed that in Doha. I saw the way that you guys were conducting yourselves behind the scenes. And then I
Oh
love the
yeah.
way that you guys celebrated with the success that you had there, like the whole team just going crazy. And
Oh man.
it was really fun to see, man. And I hope you have the same success
Uh,
in Paris as well.
yeah. I mean, I would love hearing the national anthem in Doha live. For me, that's if you tell me I've been to me the highlights of my career. I would say I loved ISL when I was a champion in season 4 of ISL. That for me was outstanding. But to hear my national anthem in a stadium, it's
Yeah,
breathtaking. To be honest,
yeah.
I was crying the whole anthem. I was crying before when Diogo won the medal. I was
Hmm.
crying after. It's really emotional. People don't imagine to have all of this first in a nation for us. We are such in the we are in the outer part of Europe in the world, man. Come on. Who would have thought that we would be here making all the semis with the athletes, all the finals, winning
Hmm.
medals, and creating our print in the swimming world. We're slowly getting there. We're 11 million in our country, man. Come on.
Yeah.
But we're doing our best here. We're trying to get better and better, improve ourselves every day. But hearing the national anthem, I dream of that again.
Well, man, it's the professionalism that you bring, and it's the intelligence and the experience as well. You know, you've been there, you've done that, and you're starting to spread that throughout the swim team now. And great coaches as well who are doing fantastic
Yeah.
jobs. So, yeah, man, good luck with everything. I appreciate you doing this today.
Thank you so much, my friend. My
All
pleasure.
right,
Thank you
take
for
care.
having me.
Bye.